you're one of the top athletes in the world. How do you keep with the whole regular guy thing?
I was only a golfer on the golf course. I was the third of 7 kids from my parents. So I had my own responsibility. So I would come home, my siblings would ask me, hey, how did the tournament go? I'd be like, well, I won. And they're like, oh, nice job. Great. Now can you go take this trash out,
Yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Mike Sievert, and welcome back to Sidekicks Conversations. Today I'm coming to you from the road, the T-Mobile signature store in Las Vegas, and on the heels of some pretty exciting news. PGA of America and T-Mobile have teamed up in a multi-year 5G innovation partnership. You want to know who else we're partnering with? None other than one of the most powerful golfers in the world, and he's here today, Tony Finau. So happy you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I know you guys, has anybody been catching Full Swing on Netflix? It's amazing. So I got to start with that, Tony. What's it like? You're on TV and you're a star of a hit show, and do you watch yourself on TV, and how is all that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I definitely watched it. I wanted to see how, how it went.
How did I look?
Yeah, exactly, how we're portrayed. But I thought it was great. I thought it was great for our family, great for the game of golf. Great to share my story a little bit about how I was raised and who I am, and then, obviously the golf part as well. So just to be a part of that show, I thought was pretty special for me and our family, no question.
One of the things that came through was this idea of really pursuing inclusiveness in golf, because you talked about the sort of humble, background that you came from in Utah and your Polynesian roots. So tell us about that. Is this a passion point for you, widening the tent for golf?
Yeah, no question. I think golf's an amazing game, and I think it connects people in ways that I would have never dreamed of. And now kind of seeing that part of it, and then the humble beginnings. I don't have any history, any background in golf. My dad didn't play. My grandparents didn't play. I'm not from your typical country club type golf background. So being able to just see what the game can offer, I think it's a game that needs to be more worldwidely played. And so just to be a beacon of that through my story. And
how did that unfold when you were a kid? Tell us what happened.
Yeah, well, so I started playing golf at 8, but my brother and I would show up to tournaments basically with 3 clubs, that my dad got at the Salvation Army store. He would cut them down for us and we would play, but you're allowed to have 14. So when I say humble beginnings, we just didn't have the finances to play the game of golf. We didn't know what it cost, but obviously very expensive. But we just kind of went through the ranks. But at that time, not only were my brother and I the only persons of color playing golf, we're the only Polynesians playing golf. So I think that barrier, now I'm back in Utah. My son plays. I go to these junior golf tournaments, and there's not only Polynesians, but a lot of kids of color playing the game of golf. I think it's important to have that diversity through the game. And again, it's just because it's such an incredible game. It connects people in ways just like T-Mobile does. And that's why our partnership is so incredible. But golf connects people in ways that I think no other sport really can. So
why do you think that is?
I think you get to know somebody on a golf course a lot better than anywhere else. I think if we wanted to play basketball together, you and I'm a huge fan. I love basketball. But just as an example, I think it'd be pretty hard to get to know anybody shooting hoops. You can be competitive, but I'm not having a conversation. In golf, it only takes a second to hit the shot. And then for the next 10 minutes, we're walking down the fairway, we're driving in a cart. For the next few minutes, I get to know who you are. For that reason, golf is an incredible game where I can truly get to know somebody through that. And then some of their actions, maybe on the course, I get to know them as well.
Yeah, I feel like the fans get to know you in golf too, because it's not one hole of golf, it's 18 holes of golf, sometimes over multiple days in a row to form a championship or a tournament. How do you balance that? Because what we see unfold is sort of this interplay between being aggressive and being patient. How do you think about it, that trade-off throughout 18 holes, and how do you keep your mental stamina up if it's not going exactly the way you had predicted it?
Experience has been my greatest teacher. I feel like just over time, as you go through the ranks, you learn how to stay patient with yourself and just try and persevere through some of the hard times, and in golf, you're never really gonna play a perfect round. There's really no such thing as a perfect round in golf. So just, one shot at a time type mentality, trying to be as present as possible.
The other thing about golf is that tens of millions of people play it.
Yeah.
And so when we watch you, I feel like we can picture ourselves, but not really. Like when you watch like the NFL or something,
Right.
millions of people don't play football.
Yeah.
What separates? Like tell us, maybe it's innate talent, maybe is it the, cliche 10,000 hours of practice with the right, mentors, but what separates, the top 25 golfers in the world, year one, from all the rest of us?
There's always talent. There's no question. There's so much talent on the PGA Tour. And I would say the top 25 players in the world are definitely the most talented, but they also work the hardest to get to where they are. They're very consistent. They're very determined, very diligent in what they do, and very purposeful. We all have the goal of being the best player in the world, but that can only be given to one person.
Yeah.
So the collateral damage from trying to be the best is maybe you're going to finish as 10th in the best or 12th in the best, but that's not going to stop us from trying to pursue that. And that's kind of how I look at it. I still have the goal of being the best player in the world at some point. I've reached the top 10 many times in my life in the world. And so, but that, it keeps me hungry, it keeps me having a purpose to drive towards. But I think the best players in the world in any sport are the ones that are just truly willing to sacrifice and work for it.
You've taken some major tournaments,
Yeah.
Standing in front of everyone, and you're always in the hunt. But when it works out just right, and you're standing there holding the cup or the ribbon or the equivalent, what's that feel like?
And the euphoria is really hard to describe. It's just a lot of fulfillment, I would say, of just long, hard hours and just being able to accomplish a goal that maybe even you didn't think was possible at a certain time, But there's just that fulfillment that comes with that, and that's what it's all about. Everybody talks about it's the journey and all those things. So when you reach a goal, it's just part of the journey. It's always that feels amazing. But now what's next? So it's never like I stop and just say, oh wow, this is incredible. I definitely think there's time to reflect and kind of smell your flowers along the way. But you're always also, as a competitor, thinking, all right, now what next?
But that might be one of the things that separates real competitors, the way we were talking about a minute ago, that you have this incredible moment of euphoria because you've taken it all, but you're looking ahead.
Now you're looking forward to your future.
And you might not have pictured it maybe even years ago that you'd be there, but you might not have pictured it when you were on the third hole and bogeyed it. And you might have felt like it was slipping away, and
That's
then
exactly
somehow
right.
on the back nine, you outrun everybody and take the prize.
And that's why I love sports just in general. That live entertainment part. You just don't know what's going to happen. Anytime somebody makes a mistake, it's not like, oh, well, let's retake that. Hold on, let's stop. You got to play through it. And so there are tournaments that I've won where it's exactly that situation where I look back and I say, that sixth hole was the turning point. I made a double bogey there, but I learned from that. And to be standing here holding the trophy after that disaster just adds to the fulfillment. So there's no question,
The sport's evolving, right? You mentioned how important it is to connect with audiences, and that's why we wanted to get involved with our sponsorship with PGA of America and being involved with you, is to figure out how can we bring 5G technology so that people don't miss most of the game, because when we watch on TV or when we go, to a tournament, we only see a piece of it, of all the sport that's playing. Unlike a basketball game that, like you mentioned, we see the whole thing. And so our hope is that with 5G technology on the courses, we can have real-time experiences for every fan, at home or on the course, and really change it up. And, maybe it'll be part of that mission you talked about of being a sport that more and more just connects with audiences.
There's no question. And just like I tell my wife, I outkick my coverage with my wife. I outkick my coverage being with T-Mobile. I would have never guessed in my wildest dreams to be, a partner of T-Mobile, to have the friendships that we have and all those things. So I think the 5G part of it is going to be incredible, and it's going to change the game for hopefully everybody to watch and on a better level. So it's been incredible just to be a part of this team.
And nobody on the course has trouble spotting Tony Finau when he's coming down the fairway with that magenta golf bag of yours. It's fantastic. Thank you for being willing to do that. That was amazing.
I love it. The magenta look pops.
All this almost didn't happen. You mentioned basketball. You're a giant enthusiast there. I don't understand multi-talented athletes at all. But you had scholarship offers to play basketball in college.
Yeah, I love basketball. Basketball was my first love as a sport. It was obviously a lot bigger sport than golf was. When I was when I was growing up, 7, 8, 9 years old, I kind of hid the fact that I played golf. Golf just wasn't cool, you know? So I was like, anybody would be like, wait, are you the one that golfs? I'm like, no, I'm not. You know, I was a bit ashamed of it, but as time went on, I would say it became a little cooler, but basketball was the cool sport. So I loved playing basketball.
How'd you choose it? What made you go down the golf path?
I was just a lot better at it.
Yeah.
I would say I was a very good basketball player, but when I was 12, I won this tournament called Junior World, which is exactly what it sounds like. All the best juniors in the world travel to San Diego and we play a 4-day tournament there. And I won it at 12 years old, and I'm holding the trophy. And this is in 2002. If we take ourselves back to 2002, the greatest player in the world was Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Ernie Els. And so I'm holding this trophy, and I'm looking on the list of names on there, and it's Tiger Woods, Ernie Els, Phil Mickelson. So that was a moment I feel like that kind of changed my life to where I was like, I was still playing multiple sports at that time, and then I said, you know what, maybe golf is the thing. You know, if these guys were able to do it, well, you know, why can't I? So that was, I would say, a huge moment in my life at 12 years old where I just was full force on golf.
Everybody talks about, who knows you, including the other athletes, talk about your approachability and your humility. And how do you keep all that? I mean, you know, you're one of the top athletes in the world. How do you keep with the whole regular guy thing?
It's funny. So growing up, like I said, very humble beginnings, but I became a very good golfer very fast. But I was only a golfer on the golf course. I was the third of 7 kids for my parents. So I had my own responsibility. So I would come home, my siblings would ask me, hey, how did the tournament go? I'd be like, well, I won. And they're like, oh, nice job.
Great.
Now, can you go take this trash out? You know, you know, go grab, go grab my bike from the garage and go clean it in the back. So I never had special treatment growing up. You know, I think it allowed me to know that golfing is great. It's a part of who I am, but it's not everything, you know, and so that's just kept me grounded, I think. So my siblings, my wife, my parents, a lot of credit to them to just keep me grounded and always knowing who I am from when I was raised, the way I was raised.
Well, who knows? If you had chosen basketball, maybe you'd be one of the biggest athletes in that sport. But I, for one, am sure glad you chose golf. You're an inspiration, man.
No,
thank you so much for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And that is Sidekicks Conversations for today. We'll look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, everybody. Yeah.